Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Sherrone Moore, this Michigan program, they're really starting to heat up on the recruiting trail. Landing our first commitment of the weekend might not be the last commitment either. And four-star running back Donovan Johnson from IMG Academy. And for the Michigan fans that were rocking with the boys Wednesday afternoon, we talked about him taking, kind of a surprise, unofficial visit to Ann Arbor. Tony Alford getting the job done, wrapping up this commitment. And at least in my mind, like where you want to start with Donovan Johnson is this kid was born to run the football for this Michigan offense. You look at how Sherrone Moore wants to run the football, physical, downhill. You're looking at one of the most physically imposing running backs in this 2025 cycle. And it goes right back to the conversation we have all the time with our Michigan Wolverines on the recruiting trail. That is, we're going to recruit the guys that fit what we want to do on both sides of the football. And Donovan Johnson fits how Michigan wants to run the football. Fired up about this commitment. Before we get into it, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, to the Michigan fans. The amount of support y'all have shown the fellas over the last couple of weeks as we've talked the recruiting trail middle of June. It's been absolutely amazing. Can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Sounds like it might not be our last commitment. We're talking about for Michigan on Sunday. Hey, though, we got time. The boys don't have any Sunday plans. We're talking some Michigan on the recruiting trail. Appreciate you guys rocking with us. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And Dill, let's get into Donovan Johnson. Now, you start with just the background. This kid balled out his freshman year in the state of Georgia, ran for over 1,300 yards, averaged 8.1 yards per carry, transfers to IMG his sophomore year, has a very solid sophomore year, then gets banged up, misses his junior year. This is one of those running backs that I think we are going to see skyrocket up the rankings once he gets healthy and is playing for IMG during his senior year. Dill, I know you're a massive fan of him. Checked out his film as well. Tell us a little bit about Donovan Johnson, what he brings to this Michigan offense.
I think it's the big thing you kind of talked about is just the physicality he runs with, but also the vision inside the tackle box. And you've talked what's made Michigan's offense, and again, it hasn't been wildly explosive over the last years where Michigan football has been kind of dominating and really making some things happen, especially in the Big Ten. But you see they always stay on schedule. They Blake Corum, just the way he was able to really avoid having those bad plays, avoid having negative plays, and keeping Michigan out of that third and long kind of situation enough. I think you can kind of look at Donovan Johnson, his ability to pick his way through holes in the middle, be able to run through tackles, be physical on contact. I think those are, again, when you talk about fit and what you're looking for at Michigan, that's almost to a T what you kind of want.
This kid is about as decisive as a running back as you'll see at the high school level, which is rare for running backs at the high school level. They normally have to develop that when they get to the college level because they can kind of get away with bouncing stuff out, getting in space, and just being the better athlete on the football field. Quite frankly, we saw Donovan Edwards probably struggle with that during the early portions of his Michigan career. You'll look at Donovan Johnson and say, you're not too worried about this kid getting downhill. And you noted it best, the feel, the vision for navigating between the tackle box. It's extremely impressive. And on top of the physical nature of what he runs the football with, you look at the athletic profile. This kid qualified for the Junior Olympics in the 200 meter. I mean, he has some burners when he does get into the open field as well. And they'll turn it on the tape. Like you talk about physically imposing running backs, it doesn't get much better than Donovan Johnson. One, really good short area quickness for his size, thick in the lower half, and he's just going to get downhill. He's going to make people miss, routinely running through arm tackles. You talk about Michigan and how they've just worn teams down in the second half with kind of that heavy run game. I mean, look at Donovan Johnson. This is a guy that just does not go down. He runs with low pads. He can work through contact. This kid, in my mind, checks every single box that Sherrone Moore is looking for in his running back in this Michigan offense.
And that's 100% what you're looking for, just that fit, that ability to be what Michigan's going to want. And again, to me, it's going to be about not changing things up a whole lot. I think Michigan's still going to be Michigan, and you hope they recruit some of those high-end talents as they're like, if you believe the crystal balls, it sounds like maybe they're starting to do that a little bit. But at the end of the day, you still want this to be your fundamental, your baseline of what this program is. And you want physical running backs, you want a physical offensive line, and you want to be able to play the way you see Donovan Johnson playing in his days.
Yeah, and I mean, like you like see the vision and like the feel. You can kind of get it from this like all 22 view here. I mean, putting his foot in the ground, he's getting downhill, he's working through contact. This is a guy that just does not get brought down by the first tackler. You see a little bit of the long speed when he gets to the second level. I could watch Donovan Johnson film all day, and I think it's important for a lot of Michigan fans to kind of remind yourselves, we're watching a sophomore in high school at this point. He didn't play his junior year. What is this kid going to look like during his senior year for IMG? And you talk about IMG, Dale, Michigan has had so much success with some of these IMG players, right? JJ McCarthy obviously playing his senior year, DJ Turner, Cesar Ruiz. I like how Donovan Johnson can operate in space. I think we painted him to be this kind of between the tackles, physical running back. That's certainly part of his game, but when he does get out in space, he can make people miss. The short area quicks are certainly there. And Dill, you take a look at what Michigan's building in this 2025 class, it sounds like this is kind of the start of the avalanche. And we talked about it. Michigan is going to prioritize the positions that have made Michigan what they've been the last couple of years: defensive line, offensive line, the running back position. That's exactly what we're seeing Michigan do in this 2025 cycle.
Yeah, I think when you look at what Donovan Johnson might end up being in terms of how important he could be for Michigan's class as a whole, not only for himself, but you kind of look, Michigan's really going after a handful of more IMG guys. You got Boateng. You obviously got Alex Graham, his buddy who's committed to Colorado, but it sounds like that recruitment might not be over. Obviously, he was at Michigan earlier this week. So, again, can that be Strayhorn? Obviously, should mention him. Sounds like he probably is coming to Michigan, hopefully. I think you kind of look, can that help push some of these other battles over the edge, the Boatengs, the Alex Grahams? That, to me, is almost an ancillary, really exciting part about winning this.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, like, I love kids coming from IMG. I think there's a reason we've had so much success, right? JJ, DJ Turner, Cesar Ruiz. These kids who've played at IMG, like, that's basically a collegiate football program. So you talk about some of the outside of football kind of things that you have to adjust to when you get to the collegiate level. If you played at IMG, you've been in a collegiate football program, you've been in a strength room, you know how to manage all of that and kind of be a professional getting to the collegiate level. You kind of feel like Donovan Johnson going to be that guy. This was one of the guys that I said Wednesday afternoon would love to see join Michigan's class. That's exactly what happens in Dill. Not even an official visit, just an unofficial visit Wednesday afternoon, spending some time with Tony Alford, beating out programs like Ohio State, Alabama for this cat. Massive win for Michigan. Sounds like it's just a start. Buckle in, as Wink Martindale is going to say, because it sounds like Michigan going on a run on the recruiting trail. Appreciate you guys rocking with it again. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.